Hello Internet, this video is mostly for the new players out there, and it's going to be about TMRs, which ones you should potentially build, what TMRs are good. I want to start this video out with two things. New players, build Zisa. She's a terrible unit, but you should still build her because she has arguably a broken TMR. It has been broken since day one. There's no intention of fixing it, and honestly there's no intention, I think, of making a TMR like it. Like, power creep is going to have to go to a level that is ridiculous with TMRs to actually power creep this. It doesn't break the game or anything, and in fact it was probably more relevant and necessary in the early game than it is now, but it is still, even with that caveat, still the best TMR in the game, probably hands down, just because of its amazing versatility. Even if it's not as necessary as it once was. The second thing I want to say is, yo Bismarck, if you're possibly watching this, could you add like a community ranking feature to wotv calc? Like, allow me to rate a unit, allow me to rate a vision card, allow me to rate a piece of equipment, allow the community to do that. Assuming the community acts with some sense in this respect, and I think that we definitely could. This could lead to a system where you could more easily sort and find the best TMRs, because right now I'm going to be scrolling through a very large and a very long list. I'm going to be excluding limited TMRs, and I'm going to be trying to highlight the ones that are easiest to get. So, with that being said, okay, let's look at TMRs. Now, unlike a lot of my videos, I'm not going to be looking at future stuff necessarily. You can kind of catch up with those as we go along. This is more of a catch you up video. And with that being said, I'm going to start at the bottom with which of these are worth getting. I am going to skip all of the lowest rarity stuff. The first MR thing that I'm going to highlight, it's a decent buff on it. You may not want to level this up if you're, I mean, it could be worse, right? It has decent defensive stats, but really the reason you're getting this TMR is you should build Mont. You should build Prince Mont, so you're probably going to have that TMR. Arguably, this is a good katana. This is from Sir O. It's only good. I don't really like TMR weapons, I have to be honest on that, and it's only really good because it has Maneater, so with Maneater you want to stack as much Maneater as possible, so this could work in a very specific build, but generally isn't great, in my opinion. Blood-Soaked Dagger, this is Vistral. It's going to be good for evasion units, again, kind of niche because you really have to go into building weapon TMRs to really get the best use out of them. One I definitely do want to highlight, though, is Mashari's TMR and Ayaka's TMR. I find these two to be really similar. This one is absolutely my favorite. This is huge in GB. I mean, even on an offensive mage, any unit that has high magic, is going to really appreciate this, especially if they don't have heals. Because this is the kind of heal that's going to cause them to, as the opening of the second fight is happening, if they're standing next to an injured unit or they're injured themselves, they're going to run to a unit next to them, they're going to buff each, and they're going to get a 3-turn damage barrier for both of them, in addition to a Curaga level heal that should get them back up to full health. This is just a huge game changer. It's probably my second favorite TMR overall, and it's on a unit that you can get basically for free. You can 99 her just like you can 99 Zisa. This one is going to give you, instead of healing, it's going to give you a bunch of status resistances. This isn't amazing. No, wait, it's going to remove. This isn't Asuna. So that can be helpful in some instances, especially in PvE content where you need someone to be able to dispel that. Anything where you're running up against a Marlboro, typically, have the person that has this hang back and then cast this to save them, and then give them a slightly weaker shield, but also for 3 turns. So another reason that Mashari's TMR is better, but this is still worthy of mention. Okay, here we are. Let's talk about bells. I mean, this has been in the game pretty much the whole time. The reason that it's amazing is that this is a very high AP restore mod. You're not going to find this on another character. You're not going to find this on another item. There are arguably better buffs that add something other than just AP restore. However, this is the best AP restore buff in the game. Now, with that being said, even if you don't need that for your characters, because a lot of newer characters have better AP management, it is a good accuracy TMR, but it is an incredible agility TMR. This is one of the fastest TMRs in the game. Get an agility rune set on this. Get this up to like 13 agility. 3 of that's going to stack incredibly well, by the way. If you need more knowledge about that, check out my video on the trust rune system. This is a big favorite. This is one of the most powerful TMRs in the game, or at least was early on. This one was banned a lot in competitive just because that is like half a turn right there. That's like half a turn. So if you can get your whole group in this little radius, especially if they're a slash team, not only do they get increased power, but they're probably taking that next turn very soon. That's just huge. Anything that can give you agility or a speed boost is huge in this game. This guy, not bad. It's very accessible because it comes on Ketone. Better for evasion. Significantly high agility. It's not super common that TMRs have agility. The ones I'm looking at have extra agility. This is really good on supports. It helps them get in range for heals, but also allows them to catch up if they buff in place for a little bit. They may use this buff in place, so it's going to help them catch up after that. But mainly, decreased chance of being targeted makes supports more viable. It makes glass cannons potentially more viable on teams that don't have tanks. So this can be an important piece of tech for your team. This is one that I really like for evasion units. The reason is it has good evade, it has very high agility. Those two things alone would make it a really good evasion TMR, but it also increases your agility. This is a pretty strong buff that you may not necessarily use because a lot of the characters that you're going to be using it on are not going to be able to benefit from the range boost. This is only going to affect, I think, gunners, rangers like bow characters, and characters that throw spears, I believe, are the things that benefit from range. So missile units, a subset of pierce units, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So that is a lot more limited of a buff than it seems, but again, any TMR with 7 agility is good, honestly. Like, everything else after that point is icing on the cake. The Uldoan Apron is good, but I don't think it's aged necessarily as well as other TMRs, and let me tell you why. Increased defense penetration is very powerful, very good. 3 turns, 50%, that's amazing. The thing is, a lot of newer units are already going to have a lot of defense penetration in their kit if they need it, and this is a lot less necessary than it used to be. There are a lot of units that will definitely like this, but I also want to point out 5% AP restore for 3 turns. I think Bell's was 25 or 20, so this is like a fifth as powerful as Bell's in terms of AP restoration. Arguably a lot, well, again, there's still a lot of characters that would like this buff, especially some older characters, but there's no agility on this, so I can't recommend it for that. This is really a TMR that I recommend mainly for the buff. Alright, I would talk about this TMR because it grants re-raise. However, it's limited, and I don't really even... I don't know how I feel about telling you to try to 99 the unit that it's on to get it. I'm just not sure it's worth that as an investment, especially as the standard for re-raise has gotten so much better. But while we're talking about limited stuff I said I wasn't going to talk about, the Saint Circlet off of Cecil is an amazing TMR if you can get your hands on it. I don't know if I would actually pull him to get this, but this is really helpful for bravery farming, and it's also a pretty good all-around buff. A lot of units can equip this, a lot of units can use this, this can help AI in a lot of units. It is limited, so I'm going to stop talking about it. This is Nivelu's TMR. It has potential because it has a big AoE buff that can be helpful for some units, but I think it's pretty niche, and only I think ranged units can equip it anyways, so yeah, not great. I do want to shout out Eunice TMR if you have it, because it is roughly equivalent in a lot of ways to Mascherie's TMR, except that I would say that it's generally inferior to that TMR because it's clothing and because it's limited. If you have both, though, you can make a pretty cool team out of them. Black Rose Headdress. This is on Black Witch Helena. This is a pretty good buff because, unlike the heals, Lucia's TMR, this has a general damage barrier that's actually stronger than the one on Mascherie's TMR, and it has the same agility buff. So this is better than range, and we have good agility on here, and we have good base for magic. So this could actually be built up to have a respectable amount of magic that could compare to most modern staffs when built correctly with trust runes. Sunburial Pendant. This is Moore's TMR, and it's absolutely a must-have. Not really for anything about it except for its ability to increase the unit's faith. This stuff is arguably kind of cool on the right team, maybe, but really this is a faith farming TMR. That's what you're going to use it for. Also be careful with it because it's hard to reduce faith, so don't equip this to a unit that doesn't need faith, because you might send them on a long mission and they come back with a lot more faith than you ever wanted them to have. I do actually like these two summer TMRs, but I'm not going to talk much about them. Tifa's TMR is coming up if you 99 Tifa. The one thing I don't like about it, this is going to be a really good TMR for Edward and Tifa as a team. So if you already have that team, you have this TMR, but it might be worth building because they're both strike units for wind, so they're going to get both of these buffs, and that could be quite powerful together. It's quite powerful for Tifa, and to be quite honest, even outside of Wind Strike, I do like this buff because it is very big and very broadly equipable. And in addition to that, we have decent defense on this armor, and on this accessory, and also a good basis of attack to build this up to close to 200 attack. This is Ferocious TMR. It is unfortunately not very equipable. The buff, I guess, is decent. It is also an armor, which makes it a really awkward TMR. However, once again, faith farming. Though, as I said, there aren't many units that can equip this because it's really only for heavy armor units, so it's unfortunately not as useful as it might look. Still worth mentioning though, if you have it and a unit can equip it, it's a good option. Emberlight Mantle is Lucio's TMR. It's got some defense, some spirit. I honestly don't really like its stats a lot. It gives 10% AP restore, which is going to be twice as much as Oldoa's TMR, but that is going to come without the defense penetration. Arguably, this is not a great TMR, but you're going to be building Lucio, so this might be your Bell's replacement while you're building Zisa, so it is worthy of a shout out at the very least. These are kind of limited, but I think both these TMRs are potentially good. This one is probably the least good in practice though, because there aren't a lot of units that can equip it, and you'll notice that these are all magic based units. The thing about magic based units is they typically have good AP usage. So potentially this could work on a magic unit on an otherwise physical team that doesn't necessarily have good AP tech, specifically older brawlers and DPS. So this isn't a terrible TMR, and it has a really wide range of effect, but it's not the best, and it is kind of limited because it's on a Warrior of the Crystal. He is one of the better Warrior of the Crystals, and with his updates he becomes pretty top tier again, but I mean, this is actually one rerun unit that I would recommend pulling for, but not necessarily for his TMR, although it is good enough of a TMR to mention here. This is Astrius's TMR. Astrius is also an incredible Warrior of the Crystal that I would actually recommend pulling for, even though it's been a while. But mainly because this, while it has a really awkward buff pattern, is one of the best ways to auto-farm Bravery. Because, you know, face it, when are we ever getting Cecil again? And will he ever be free again? So, and even if he isn't free, will you want to pull him? This is a character you actually want to pull. This is a buff that you actually want to use in battle, and just icing on the cake, auto farm Bravery with it. And like, it's just good. It's just good. If you get it, you're gonna be happy with it. Dagger Dancer, Little Leela's TMR. I actually really like this one. It has decent accuracy. It is a clothing that kind of holds it back a bit, but this is a really wide range. We have seen a lot of things that raise agility by 25%, but I do want to point out that this is the first one we have seen in a full diamond AoE, so it is notable for that. The buff in general is a little bit lacking compared to a lot of the other things that we've seen. Really, it is the wide range of it that makes it cool, because this makes it a lot more likely you will hit your entire team with it. Okay, so Queen, Glassy, and Queen, well, I mean, I guess technically she hasn't quite finished her civil war and solidified her power to become Queen, but Glaciella's TMR is pretty cool because it gives Protect in a small AoE. This isn't amazing, but it is a pretty good buff. Again, if you have a unit that does not have party buffs, like group buffs, and you want to give them one so that they bunch up for whatever reason, this is a great TMR to do that with. Unfortunately, again, cloth, so, you know, not as great as an accessory. Same problem that this one has. Instead of Protect, though, we have a very similar theme here, except that we're getting Defense 20 and Missile Resistance 20, which is pretty awesome for a lot of different teams that are trying to face down the missile meta, which is largely physical. But another thing that I really love about this, even though it is a self-centered buff, which is a little bit unfortunate, it is the full Diamond AoE pattern, again, making it even more likely that your entire team gets this buff. Really great TMR, I think. Alaya's TMR is another one of my favorites. So, first of all, 6 agility, 42 attack, those are both really great for their stats. 13 accuracy. So this is a great accuracy TMR. It can be built up to like 200 attack. It can be built up to 12 agility, I want to say. But the thing that I really like about it is, I mean, I said this with concentration and Tifa's TMR. This huge diamond AoE on an attack buff that's this big is great. But added bonus that it's going to stop some of the most toxic, maybe not the most used, but if you get hit by any of these status elements, it's basically game over for your unit. So being able to prevent these is just good. Even if you're not going to see them, it keeps you from getting caught off guard, and it comes with a really great attack buff, so it's worth it. If it were just that, I wouldn't be as excited about it, but the fact that it comes with an attack buff, I think makes it good. Let me look at these 3 TMRs again to see if I like them. I think this is the one that gives CT up. I think this could potentially be good, but I don't think anybody has really shown it to be great. There's only one cast, the range is a bit limited, but really I think what's holding this back is it's only 100 CT. Kareen's a great unit, get her, but not necessarily for a TMR. Nope. Just nope. I'm just gonna say nope. Good defense, good accuracy. Defense and protect. So that is really going to allow someone to tank up against physical. The thing is, I think that most units that would really want this buff already have one of these 2 things in their main kit. I guess this is really good for units that just have no survivability at all. Like maybe putting this on your support, I don't know. But I'm not really excited about it. So that brings us up to current. Those are the TMRs that are in the game up to this point, and wow, 20 minutes, good job me. And which ones I think you should really think about. And keep in mind the TMRs like Mashari's TMR, like Lucio's TMR, like Zisa's TMR, Belle's especially, Belle's for sure. Maybe even Katone's TMR. And the reason is that you can get all of these characters for free by farming friend or guild medals. And those aren't terribly hard to get and in pretty good quantity. Now you are going to be capped on, you know, you can only buy 1 unit, which is 40 shards per month. And then you can buy 10 shards for each unit a day. So it might take you a little bit of patience to build these units. But especially Zisa and Mashari, absolutely worth it. Katone is a little bit more optional, but she is a free unit, so it is worth considering. but you might not want that one. Anyways, thank you for listening. Have a great playing experience. Do what you love. Share your fun strategies in the comments. I would love to hear feedback from newer players that are experimenting with the game. And I really hope that this clarifies a lot of things about TMRs for you and what characters might be worth pulling or might be worth building, even if they're not necessarily a character that you want for the unit. So, with that being said, see you in the next one.